Hi, welcome to Secure, Contain, Protect. This is the final episode of the story Incident 096-1-Alpha. Sit back as we reach the end of the story and as the truth unravels. SCP-096 ran through the forest, knocking down trees in its way and leaving a clear line of destruction. It was getting dark. Mobile Task Force personnel was afraid they would lose track of the creature when it entered the forest, but the fallen down trees made it easy to track. They had given up on trying to stop the creature. All they could do was to follow it and contain it again after it has done its thing. The Shy Guy could feel it. It's getting close to its prey. In a kilometer or so, it exited the forest, now in a big open ground. A 2-story house stands with a barn across from it. Without skipping a beat, SCP-096 ran towards the barn. The man hears something like galloping, getting closer. Thinking that a horse has escaped, he put his work aside, but then a wail that sounded like nothing any normal thing could make. He looked up, and there was the creature running towards him at an unnatural speed. There was nothing he could do as it finally reached him and killing him in the most brutal way. It mauled at his face, broke every bone in his body, and when it was done, the man, or what's left of him, had been beaten to a state of unrecognizable mess. His face was gone, body disformed, and a few bones were seen sticking out. That was it. SCP-096 has killed everyone who had seen its face. Its job was done. It sat down, sobbing into his red-stained hands. It didn't want to kill these people. Why wouldn't they just leave it alone? The day was getting darker, the lights no longer reaching the inside of the barn. The man's wife had heard something coming from the barn, and so she went out to check on him. She carried their newborn with her, not wanting to leave him in the house alone. There was a faint crying, and she called out the man's name. Of course, there was no answer. The man was dead. The woman called his name a few more times, and the Shy Guy looked up. The two was now staring right at each other. The horrific face of the creature startled her, prompting her to take a step back. The Shy Guy screamed in rage and took one leap to kill her. It landed right on top of her, crushing everything in her body, along with the infant. It stood there, once again, quietly sobbing. The helicopters finally caught up, and Mobile Task Force dropped down from it. They're all equipped with the newly engineered scramble goggles, made to confront the creature. This technology was designed by the head researcher of SCP-096, Dr. Dan, who has conducted many experiments with the creature. The scramble goggles blacks out the face of SCP-096 so that Foundation personnel can safely look at the creature. Mobile Task Force quickly approached the Shy Guy, the face of it blocked out. They surrounded it, and one person has a bag. He goes up to it, ready to put the bag on its face. But then it started to scream. The scramble goggles had failed to work. The computer in the headset wasn't fast enough to block out its face in time for the images to reach the people's eyes. In that split second, not even enough time for anyone to notice it had seen its face. The Shy Guy punched a hole right through the person in front of him, and it swiftly took down the rest of the mobile task force on site. This was really bad, as the team was one of the best retrieval teams the Foundation had. 2 people were sent in. One of them had to secure the bag on its head. With much fear, he approached the creature, not daring to look up at its face even with the goggles. He slowly walked right up to it, took a deep breath, and put the bag over its face. He breathed a sigh of relief, glad to be still alive. Agent Kang, the other person, was tasked with finding the photograph that caused this whole thing. He searched the house, eventually found a room that resembled an office room. Papers were stacked on top of the table. He hurriedly scrambled through the table in search for the photograph that contained SCP-096's face. The photo had to be destroyed. If left here, it could lead to a more devastating event than this. Papers were flying everywhere, but still no photo. He went over to a little desk off to the side, a window right in front of it. Through the window stood the Shy Guy, with the bag still on its head. It had calmed down a little, no longer in its aggressive state, but quietly sobbing to itself. But then, Agent King saw something through the scrambled goggles. A blurred out spot on an innocent-looking photograph. It's a picture of the man, taken in a snowy mountain where he went hiking a few years ago. The man was looking through some old photos when his eyes went across the SCP in the background. He hadn't even noticed it was there. The Shy Guy's face occupied less than 3 pixels in the photograph, but it was enough to cause all of this. Suddenly, the crying from SCP-096 stopped. Agent Kane looked up from the photo, out the window at the creature. It was getting aggressive. He instantly knew what was wrong. He had triggered its rage. He looked all over the desk for something to scratch out the SCP from the picture. There was a key, and he used that, urgently scratching it out until the scrambling from the goggles had stopped. The creature was now gone from where it was a moment ago. Kane looked over at the doorway as it appeared and ended his life. The last victim of this containment breach. Both the Shy Guy and the photograph was soon brought back to Site-19. SCP-096 was now back into its cell. Dr. Dan, as the head researcher of the creature, was brought in for questioning. Dr. Dan's many years of studying about the Shy Guy had made him realize that it was more dangerous than the Foundation had thought. He had requested an approval from the O5 Council to terminate this creature. but they had denied the request. In an effort to make them really notice the dangers of SCP-096 and what it would do if it was kept alive, Dr. Dan had orchestrated the whole containment breach. The O5 Council will ultimately find out about this, but his plan worked. They approved of the termination of SCP-096, but in return for his crime, Dr. Dan would be killed after the SCP was neutralized. But he didn't care. He could finally fulfill his goal of killing the Shy Guy.